All right, all right, all right, all right. Happy Saturday. We are going to have a cozy conversation today about chapter 6 of Next Steps in Literacy Instruction. I am Gabriela Bell Jimenez, and I am, as of today, a proud member of the Wisconsin Reading League chapter. Ginny is our board president, and she was just welcoming people into the space. As we get started, we are a small group. I wonder if Melanie and Marlene and Carrie could, if we could just spend 1 second and you unmute and tell me who you are and where is it that you're connecting from and the role that you play in the schools. Would that be helpful? Melanie, could you start us?
Good morning. My name is Melanie Hagemeister, and I will be teaching in Antigo, Wisconsin, K2 reading.
Oh, I love Antigo. I have a connection to Antigo. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Of course. Who would you like to pass it to? We have Marlene, Carrie, Gretchen.
Pass it to Marlene, please.
Marlene, good morning. Where are you connecting from?
Good morning. I'm Marlene, and I am connecting from Mesa, Arizona. So I was in Merrill in Wisconsin, and I'm now out in Arizona in Tempe, and am the literacy specialist.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Who would you like to pass it to for a quick introduction?
Let's see, what's our participants here? Let's send it over to Gretchen.
Gretchen, good morning. Where are you connecting from?
Hi, I am coming from Waukesha, Wisconsin. I work in the Whitnall School District as a literacy coach.
Which of the schools are you at, Gretchen?
I'm at Hills Corners in Whitnall School District.
Oh, so lovely that you're spending Saturday with us. Who would you like to send it to?
Let's see. What about Rachel?
Rachel.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Lennox, and I'm coming from Bakersfield City School District, and I'm in Bakersfield, California.
Oh, I love Bakersfield. It's hot in there in the summer. Hot summers.
Yes. We've been over 100 degrees for probably about 2 weeks now.
Oh my goodness. Well, that will teach me not to concern myself when we get closer to 90 around here.
Yeah, but it's a dry heat. So, I don't know if that makes a difference to you guys, but when I go to the South, I'm dying.
Richard, who would you like to pass it to? Team, we're doing quick introductions. Rachel, would you like to name friends?
Shannon.
Shannon.
Shannon Varley, assistant to the superintendent in a school district in Pittsburgh.
Oh, good morning. I am serving in a similar role in the proud city of Milwaukee here in Wisconsin. So it's lovely to meet you. Who would you like to pass it to?
Next on my list is Carrie.
Carrie? I think I have friends. I don't know if Carrie can unmute or not. How about Chrissy? Chrissy, would you like to introduce yourself?
For sure. Chrissy Molitor. I'm a K-3 literacy specialist for Racine Unified in Racine, Wisconsin.
Oh, go Racine. I have friends in Racine. Okay, who is missing? Friends, I am the worst managing the screen and managing the slides. If you have not had an opportunity to introduce yourself, could you please unmute and say hi? Did we all say hi? All right, friends, I am going to pretend like we all say hi. As you are coming in, I will do my best to monitor both things. As I said, I am Gabriela Jimenez, and I currently serve as a board member of the Wisconsin Reading League. Have lots and lots and love for the organization. My day job is superintendent of academics with an emphasis of literacy for Milwaukee Public Schools. So go Milwaukee Public Schools. And super excited to be here to have a conversation about reading comprehension, because at the end of the day, that is what we are all here for. We want to ensure that our babies are able to read for meaning. I would like to make a proposal to the team. I put together about 6 slides, 7 maybe, and I am wondering if it will be okay with you if I kind of run through the slides. I'm going to try to do that in about 20 minutes, and then we open the space for conversation. If that is agreeable to you, could you give me a thumbs up, please? Perfect. I see some thumbs up, and I am grateful for them. Okay, so we are at the part of the story where oh, Melanie, did you raise your hand? Or did you want to give me a thumbs up?
Sorry, thumbs up.
Perfect. Okay, so we are in chapter 6. So we're inching to the end of our book study. I just wanted to name that is the part of the story. So we're coming in towards one of the last wagons of the train. And as I engage in this initial part of the conversation, I am inviting you to listen for a couple things. Listen for this idea of process and product. Listen for this idea of the text, read it, and the activity. Listen for oral language and that is super essential to literacy and learning. And also, please listen for the importance of sentence and sentence variety. At this point, I would also like to do a disclaimer. I have the book here with me, and I have enjoyed reading it so much. Also, I have served in public school settings explicitly to support kiddos to achieve literacy. And by literacy, so as I am sharing with you, I will also expand and amplify a little bit on the text to share with you some things that I have learned along the way for the last 25 years, okay? So let's get started. So the chapter is explicitly on reading comprehension, and it is organized in such a way that it reminds us and grounds us on the importance of understanding the capabilities that are required for humans, not only children, to be able to read with comprehension. So the image that I have here is, of course, of the renowned simple view of reading, and thinking about how word recognition accounts for one really important capability that will then explain reading comprehension only when it is interacting with language comprehension, and how when one of these is lacking, reading comprehension is impacted negatively. The chapter of the book is framed to make us think now about reading comprehension and what happens in different educational scenarios when the kiddos are stronger in either word recognition. If kiddos are stronger in word recognition, and the variable that we're trying to attend to is the language comprehension capability, okay? So the conversation that we're having today is assuming that overwhelmingly the kiddos that we are supporting are kiddos for whom word recognition has been supported. So we're talking primarily about babies that are decoders and are encoders. We're talking about babies that are able to read with a level of fluency and can write words as they are able to interpret all of the sounds in the words and are successfully able to make phonographic connections, but yet their reading comprehension is not exactly what we expect that to be, okay? So just setting a little bit of the stage here. The author then proposed, oh, Carrie's coming back. I think there was problems with the connection. The authors do a really good job at framing us into an often invisible conundrum when we're talking about reading comprehension. And it reminds us that there is the product of reading. There is that is of critical importance for us every time that we are going to set out to plan a reading lesson, whole group or a small group, that we understand clearly what on earth it is that we're expecting our kiddos to do with the reading, with the content that is happening. The book does not explicitly say this, but I will venture to say that more often than not, about 90% of the time when we're asking kiddos to read a text or to engage with a text, we are asking them to do one of four things. We're asking them to narrate after the text, what is it that's happening? We're asking them to argue a point about the text. We're asking them to inform someone about the content of the text. We're asking them to explain something on the back of it. These are functions of text. And these functions, narrating, explaining, arguing, and informing, are also familiar to those of us that are WIDA states. And the WIDA standards are language development standards for English language learners. Interestingly enough, the function of reading in the school is exactly the same if you are a language learner or a monolingual. So I'm venturing to name that, or to invite you to consider the product of reading, thinking about these functions, because doing so will benefit the language learners that you have in your classrooms. Language learners are really important student population across the nation, and we're a growing population, but no monolinguals will be hurt if you do that. So there is a win-win situation. So we're thinking about the product of reading is sometimes easier for the teachers and for the instructional coaches to have an entry point about the product of reading when they're asking themselves at the end of this reading, what is it that I'm asking students to be able to do? Am I asking them to narrate, to inform, to explain, or to argue? For example, in a mathematical problem, I am asking kiddos to explain typically. So these functions go beyond language arts, but really helps us make sense of the reading that happens from the first bell of the day to the last bell of the day, okay? The other thing is the strategy, which is the process that we use to be able to ensure that the function is going to be acquired. So we think about the strategies and we think about the processes that are connected to, that are required for students to be able to successfully explain, narrate, inform, or argue. I would expand on the chapter to also say that there are specific linguistic features that are connected to each of the functions. So once again, I'm going to do a super plug for the WIDA 2020 standards, as even if you're not a WIDA state, you can download them. I can put a link and we can share it when the video goes up into the ether of YouTube, to be able to explain what are some linguistic features that are required or that are needed by monolinguals that will serve bilinguals to be able to access the text. So thinking about the product and thinking about the process are things that are of fundamental importance as we are planning for reading comprehension, okay? As I said, overwhelmingly, the chapter is thinking about kiddos for whom the word recognition component has been assessed. And we have a level of confidence because we have collected data that says that the kiddos are encoding and decoding successfully. The text recognizes that overwhelmingly our current state of affairs in the United States is that our kiddos are not arriving to the consolidated stage in IRIS phases, right? So we have kiddos that are anywhere in between beyond third grade. We might have fifth graders that have not arrived to consolidation. And thus it names that word recognition is commonly the entry point for small groups. In other words, that in K-12 educational systems, we are prioritizing that one-on-one or the 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 opportunity of small groups in service of word recognition. Having said that, the text does an extraordinary job in saying that word recognition, a small group, can be enhanced by ensuring that we're leveraging language development and sentence composition as really important ways to ensure that we're always intentionally leveraging both variables, both capabilities. Because remember, there's not a universe in which it will be a sound pedagogical practice to say that we're going to exclusively teach word recognition and we're going to wait until the kiddos are done here to start language comprehension. Both of these capabilities need to be intertwined and co-developed, right? And we assess and we collect diagnostic data to understand where is it that we're putting most of our instructional money on, while ensuring that we're not creating a gap for the other capability. So there are opportunities here to think about word recognition as a small group focus, and also at the same time leveraging language comprehension and sentence composition. Okay, so what happened here? One of my slides is missing. Hold please. Give me just 1 second, because that is not, that slide was not in the right place. Thank you for your flexibility. Here we go. Okay, so what are some instructional moves that I want to lift for you in response to the reading of the text? I believe that the text does an extraordinary job giving us entry points for assessing data, is explaining to us what are different ways and different assessments that can be used for different types of diagnostics to ensure that we are doing right by students, and ensuring that we have actual data to bring kiddos into small groups and to ensure that the small groups are not a life sentence, right? That they are really, really flexible and that we're collecting data often enough that the kiddos can move into the next group with next peers. At the same time, I believe that there are some things that the text is saying and pointing us to implicitly that I want to say explicitly, right? Because clarity matters and clarity is love. One of the things that the text does is that it encourages us to think about listening comprehension and how important it is for reading comprehension. I would love to expand on that and say that listening, or remind us that listening is a receptive linguistic skill, right? Listening is a receptive skill. And the way in which you get better at listening comprehension is by doing the paired expressive skill, which is talking. So if we want babies to increase their listening comprehension, we must have a student-to-student structured talk opportunities. And this should be prioritized over a student-to-teacher talk opportunities. So imagine that you are leading a classroom with 30 students, let's say 22. Let's be fair, 22 second graders in a class. And you cast a question, and it's a really good question, and it is the right level of rigor, and it is thought-provoking. But you cast the question and you cold call a kid. So you're playing ping pong with the students. You are the person that had the ball, you throw the ball, you ask one kid, the kid hit the ball, sends it back to you, and you're doing this ping pong playing with language. Imagine what would have happened if you have that question, but now create a universal opportunity for all the kiddos to practice in their mouth the answer. And you have an intentional, predictable way for kiddos to do that. So rather than just saying, turn and talk with your partner, you have already created a routine in which you have, for example, 4 different ways of potting. So students know that they are part of a pod A, or the pods can be colors, they can be anything that you want them to. And you have intentionally thought about what is it that these different pods create for the students. It could be that one is for social and emotional support because they're with someone that they really like. Another one is because they are alike peers in relationship to their abilities. It could be that one that allows students to stretch in relationship to specific skills. And if you have these predictable routines, every time that you have spent care in designing these questions, you cast them in a way in which there's 100% participation and all students are able to do this. So what I am inviting you to consider is less ping pong playing with language and more rich opportunities that are absolutely universal. So if you want listening comprehension to be enhanced, you need to have a constant buzz in your classroom. I am very suspicious of silent classrooms, and I'm really suspicious about classrooms in which the teacher is doing a lot of flexing and talking and telling us all that they know. I want the kiddos to tell me what is it that they know. It is important that the kiddos are carrying the rigor of the lesson, and the rigor of the lesson can only be assessed if there is a way for me to assess what they're thinking. And the only way in which I can do that is by expressive language, which is a speaking and writing in this case. Okay, so that is my plug for listening comprehension. Same thing for reading comprehension, right? Like reading comprehension will be enhanced by, well, let me start in the beginning. Reading comprehension, I argue, is lost at the sentence level. If you are reading, let's say, Peter Pan in 3rd grade, and you get to page number 7 as a reader and you're understanding, and then from 7 to 10, you don't know what is happening, the minimal unit of meaning that, like that disconnect between understanding what was happening in the book and not understanding what was happening in the book happened in a single sentence. Happened in a single sentence. You don't read 3 pages to find out that you did not understand. You lose track of comprehension in a single sentence. Notice that I said a single sentence, not a simple sentence, a single sentence. So because meaning is lost and derailed at the sentence, understanding sentence variety and working at speaking and writing sentences that have different levels of complexity is where the money is. If what we're seeking is that students are able to then read with meaning complex sentences. Okay, so sentences are the entry point, and that they are what we are paying attention to. Okay, so making sense of a sentence and ensuring that students are able to understand sentences by the intent of the author, that they're able to understand sentences by active or passive voice, to be able to understand sentences as simple, complex, compound, right? Like sentences, like working at the sentence level is of primordial importance. Once the students have fluency in writing and speaking sentences of different types, then we move to the paragraph level, and that is when genre specificity occurs. That is also really important. I am going to recommend that one day we have a conversation about genre-specific paragraphs, but for the purpose of the chapter, I want to concentrate on the sentence. Making sense and staying true to the sentence is a really, really, really important entry point. And the thing is that most curriculum, Dr. Roslana Westerlund says this all the time, assigns writing, but does not teach writing. A lot of curriculum will say at the end of the lesson, students are going to write a few sentences to summarize. At the end of the day, students are going to write a short response. Through the units, students are going to write a short essay, but it does not explicitly teach sentence structures, sentence variety, genre-specific paragraph structures, and variety of paragraphs. So keeping an eye on whether or not you're assigning writing versus teaching writing is going to be an important consideration for you. So what are the next steps? The next steps that I'm inviting you to consider in relationship to reading comprehension is hashtag expressive language in service of to reading comprehension. please, please, please consider leveraging speaking in service of reading and listening, right? And please leverage the explicit teaching of sentence variety in sentence of overall reading comprehension. So I am going to stop sharing the screen and I am going to open the floor. Are there any reactions, questions, wonderings?
I'll speak up. I have a little bit of knowledge of Spanish, and a long time ago, I was asked to investigate why an adult was unable to learn English in the United States. I'm wondering, you seem so richly blessed with a lot of different tools. When we have a student in our classroom who can't seem to comprehend the English, are there tools to use that are very common to see if they are actually ready to hear the phonemic differences between Spanish and English or other languages? I know Barton has an ELL screener, and an example of something that's in there, you would tell the person, tell me which of these words is a real word, apple or apple. And you have about 20 of those things. And that's how I screened this adult who was very accomplished in Puerto Rico, who was a religious sister who came to the United States to expand her language capabilities, to travel the world more. And she just couldn't pick up English. And she was actually just a beautifully talented dyslexic who in her own native language was able to excel, but could not pick up another language.
Yeah, that is such a rich question. That should be a case study. I would say that my initial entry point, and I say that this works with all humans that are on a journey, as I have been for the last 25 years. This accent is absolutely authentic. I have only been using English for the last 25 years. I started on my journey of English proficiency very close to my 20th birthday. So there's nothing I can do about the accent. I'm just flaunting it right now. Can change it. But I would say that a really important entry point is understanding in what ways is the home language alike or different from English. So then you can predict whether or not there is specific phonemes and phonographemic connection that exist in one and not the other. So that is, I would say, in Spanish, if you just type cross-linguistic transfer, that would be something that would be quite helpful.
Are there cheat sheets for that you
yes.
could link for us? Because my daughter's becoming a...
Oh, you're muted, Bonnie.
I'm sorry. My daughter's becoming a speech language pathologist, and there's such a richness in that area that
yes.
I ask her questions all the time.
Yes, I would say I would recommend there is an online free resource called mylanguages.org. You can, I have never not found a language that I'm looking for in it. And in that platform, my recommendation is that you search for the language, you go to the alphabet, and in the alphabet section, it does a really, really, really good job at lifting phonographemic connections for positive, negative, and zero transfer. So I would say that I've been using the tool, I don't know, for the last 5 years or so. And for students with less commonly spoken languages and very commonly spoken languages, it have allowed us for an entry point, for example, to look for and to understand or to make linguistic meaning as to, for example, why for some students, specific phonemes or functions in the language or features in the language are really difficult to grasp because they don't exist or because the way in which they represent is diametrically the opposite in which we do in English. So yes, so I would recommend that. Yes, thank you so much, Bonnie. That was a great question. And I will be sure that I share the link. And it's a free resource. Thank you. Are there any other questions or wonderings or complaints? I take it all.
while we were thinking about the importance of the language, I was also thinking about the SIOP model, where we have language objectives, not only the content objectives for student learning. So would you recommend us to use both language objectives and content objectives for student learning?
Absolutely. And I would say, Miss Lee, which state are you connecting from? So I can contextualize my answer for you.
Oh, I'm in Nebraska.
You're in Nebraska. What assessment do you use in Nebraska for English language learners?
Actually, I'm not a teacher, so I don't.
You're not a teacher? Okay, so I'm going to answer the question in a way that is global. Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
So in every state of the 50 states that make the country, we are fairly mandated to assess for language development of language learners.
Mm-hmm.
Overwhelmingly in the nation, the assessment that is used is the access test. Here in Wisconsin, we use the access test. And I believe in over 40, don't quote me on this, but I believe about 46 of the states use the access assessment. But every state have a way in which they create a normative and they can assess for growth of language learners.
Mm-hmm.
Those assessments are bound to specific standards, and those standards will create or will make visible for you the rigor of the language that needs to be created in opportunities for language learners so that they can increase their English proficiency. So to answer the question, yes, absolutely. We should always be mindful of a content learning objective and a language development language objective. During the little bit of the 20 minutes of the presentation that I did, I lifted that for you in saying there are functions in language. So it will be helpful if on the onset of a lesson, we say in the next 40 minutes, we are going to be comparing two texts to be able to understand the ways in which they are alike and different. That is a language arts standard. And we are going to read the text to be able to explain how we say that they are alike and different. And we're going to be using these specific features of language. We're going to use comparative language, for example. We're going to use, we could say, superlatives. So the function and the feature support language development. My argument is that function and feature in language could and should always be part of the objective of the lesson, because they will handsomely support the language learners, but no monolingual will be harmed. It will be of service of every single student. If you name what is the product of reading, the chapter talks about that, and the product will be to narrate, to explain, to inform, or to argue. And to what end, and with which text we're doing it. I do have a reservation, a personal reservation. What I am going to say does not represent the view of the Reading League Wisconsin or the organization at large. But as someone that have been grateful and personally blessed to serve language learners for most of my, for all of my career, I know students, of course, but like someone who has a great love for language learners, I do have a concern about the SIOP model because it's a sheltered instruction model. And I do not believe in sheltered instruction for language learners. Language learners must have access to general education where they are in the room where it happens, where the most complex language occurs, and where they have more opportunities of interaction at the rigor of the standards. I do believe that supplemental services for language learners should follow them into general education classroom. But I do not, and the research does not support shelter instruction for language learners, or minimally nothing has come over my desktop that has been done in experimental, quasi-experimental research that supports sheltering. there's qualitative research, but not something that can be reproduced. So I am for language learners in general education instruction, supported by ESL teachers, supported by general licensed teachers, supported by all the staff, but having access to the most language and the most rich language. So thank you, Ms. Lee, for your question.
Thank you so much. Then I have a follow-up question. You talked about features and functions of language. So
Yes.
if I would like to find some standards for these, where do I have to go?
That is on the WIDA 2020 standards, and I can be absolutely certain that we also link it.
Okay, thank you so
You
much.
will love it, love it, love it. And it's organized by developmental bands, and it's organized by the functions.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to see how is it that the function and the features are connected. And once again, they tell you they're really important for language development, but they will serve all the students. All the students will benefit from it. So yes, I will be sure that I link it.
Thank you.
Of course. Another question or wondering? Or comment. We'll take it all. All right, friends. It sounds like this was it. You know, with planning a session like this is always tricky. Last time I was here, I spent too much time sharing, and then the team didn't have enough time to for questions or wonderings. And this time it seems that I must have done a really good job going over the chapter because there were no more wonderings or questions. I am so grateful for your time. I can close the session now. If you would like to go on and continue with your Saturday, I am going to stay behind for a few minutes in case that someone has a specific question for me. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. I hope that you're enjoying the book. Please stay tuned and come over next week for chapter 7. Okay? And that is going to be with Sarah, who is going to do an extraordinary job moving into and talking about vocabulary. Okay, so I can stay behind for another 10 minutes if people have questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for spending time with us. And I'll stay here. Thank you. Bonnie, did you have any other questions for me, my dear?
I did actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very curious because I have kind of a unique background. I went into teaching about 35 years ago, 30 years ago, and we had some difficulty growing our family. And once we had some children who survived and were able to come home, I decided to stay at home with my kids, but I've, studied abroad. Even this morning, I realized we were out of softener salt. So I went to a grocery store and I cannot carry heavy loads anymore. I'm 55. And the person who was helping me spoke more Spanish than English. So I, asked politely and they said, oh, your Spanish is okay. And I think I only speak like an 8-year-old, but I can get by enough to be helpful sometimes. So now that my family is grown and my elderly mother is in hospice, I've certified myself with my license to teach in Wisconsin. And although my mother seems to be thriving in hospice, as the case may be, and I may not be able to meet a deadline to start a school job again in August, I've been a Barton tutor for about 20 years. And Barton is an Orton Gillingham explicit multisensory
map. Yep.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. You know what Barton is. And so I'm trying to seg back in, and I'm really curious because your comments sound a lot like a Socratic method